Yeah, it's always difficult because of the online issue with Oliveira.
Yeah.
So, but it actually, unfortunately, as much as I want to cheer for Oliveira, he is once again up against an opponent who, during his Miracle Run, he did defeat, but then later on there was a chance for revenge, and the other guy won. So Heerman did 3-0 him in Gamers Without Borders.
Yes, yes he did. Was able to qualify on through. All right, well, that is it for the pre-show. Let's get to the pre-match for our first game here of the day. Again, we're in that Swiss format, so we're going and diving into a game where both opponents are currently 1-1. It's going to be herO going up against Dark, which actually, now that I've said it, it kind of surprises me that these two names of all people are 1-1 on the same team here, Loco, going up against one another. You can see them laughing.
Yeah, I love that they're actually coming over to this particular event today together. That's amazing. Yeah, both of these guys, of course, top-tier players. Both of them tend to be very aggressive. I mean, Dark, there's games where he just simply sits back and he makes a million infestors and then he just doesn't attack you for like 20 minutes. But generally, in my mind, both of these guys are very, very aggressive.
You know, there's very funny interviews with both of them that I'm not sure we got, edited in time.
I'll talk about it anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Like, Dark didn't really say anything particular about herO. I think we did interview him about him, but it's not what comes to mind. What comes to mind is what herO said about Dark.
Yeah.
And basically, you could tell in the interview that herO was envious. Like, he really, respects Dark in the way that he plays. And then I asked him, do you wish that you were kind of like that? And he said, oh, I tried, but I can't. Like, I can't play exactly like Dark, which was very cute. I thought, just basically both of them being very cute in the interviews. But herO definitely has some struggles against Dark's playstyle, but it does feel like he's able to, like, wrangle the beast sometimes, and then we see, like, a really epic back and forth between the two. Yeah. So no matter what the results say of their history, like whether there were 2-0s or not, I think that the individual games are always very fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario that we find ourselves in, because of course, herO, yes, was defeated by serral, but not handedly. It was not like serral looked dominant going up against herO. herO still is great in the matchup here, Loco. It was 2-1 in favor of serral, but going up against Dark, he still has the potential to show up and kind of make waves.
Yeah, maybe Classic has been grabbing a lot of people's attention, right? Yesterday in particular, just looking amazing, but definitely don't forget about herO. In my mind, he's still the #1 Protoss in the world. I think he's got a lot of practice against Dark as well, because they seem to face against each other every couple days in online tournaments. So they definitely know each other inside and out. They're good friends. You can see them walking together. They're teammates as well. So yeah, there's a very good chance that there's going to be a lot of mind games going on as well, where Dark knows that herO knows that Dark knows that there's these overlord precisions that can just go all over the map. And there's a lot of little things that can make all the difference here.
Gressvan Royal Blood and altitude if we need it. We really haven't seen huge amounts of altitude just yet here throughout all of this. I mean, it pops up here and there, but it's a big map. Yes, we did, of course. Yes, how can I forget? But any thoughts, ZG, regarding this?
Regarding the map pool, not particularly. Yeah, I feel like they probably have a very consistent veto, but it's not something that I was privy to when we're watching the online cups happen. So I imagine this is pretty similar, but I feel like it does mean that we're going to have a less fear of the Supreme late game that maybe these guys would have had against other Protosses or other Zergs, right? Like, take away the macro maps against Zerral, for instance, but maybe it's okay versus Dark. But I think even if it is a macro map, we're going to see, again, that explosiveness, lots of back and forth, maybe a proxy gateway or two, actually. Very fun games. Yeah,
Dark likewise on the opposite side of this, Loco. He's already gone up against Clem, unfortunately lost that during what was actually a really good series that we watched yesterday. Beat a laser on the B stream, 2-1 though. So again, not looking invincible as Dark would normally do against some of our non-Koreans, and then going up against herO, he really has a test, because it's just different race after different race after different race, and Dark's being tested, surely.
I'm actually very happy to see Clem winning against Dark, if I'm being honest. I mean, I'm a huge Dark fanboy, but to see Clem doing very well against one of the very best Zergs at an offline tournament is, very, very exciting. Dark's playstyle in PvZ is also just kind of interesting, right? Like, I always kind of feel like he doesn't take it as serious in the early game. I always kind of feel like he powers up as soon as, like, he starts losing a couple drones here and there, and then at some point he's like, okay, now it's time for me to really focus. But I see him hitting little supply blocks at like 36, like mistakes that really shouldn't be happening at this level of play, but he somehow, some way, pretty much always wins.
Yeah, of course, here as we are now just 30 seconds out. ZG, final thoughts before we get into this match.
Yeah, Dark does sometimes have those macro mistakes, but it doesn't seem to really matter. He's one of those players where we're just like, well, this shouldn't work. Oh, it did work. So I'm looking forward to seeing...
I'll just make infestors and now I'll sit back.
Well, definitely in ZVT for that one, for sure. Yes, absolutely. In ZVP, just mass up.
Let's do it then. It is time. First game here for day number 2 of Gamers8. herO goes up against Dark in a PvZ.
is my mind. The pie, nice in the heart of a lion. A battle with pride is a matter of time. I become the world's greatest, the victory's mine. We reach for the cup, and the tension is up. In the city area, everybody's getting hot. It's not about luck, it's simple the skills that we got. International scores from all over the globe. Are you ready to show from off the spot?
Welcome to day 2 of Gamers8 here in Riyadh. We stayed up late last night catching some StarCraft 2 from none other than Classic, who's looking quite strong, if I might say so. But Oliveira, our current world champion and winner of IM Katowice, not quite in the same boat.
He wasn't doing well yesterday. أعزائنا المشاهدين أهلا وسهلا، حياكم الله معنا في اليوم الثاني من ستار كرافت. زي ما أنتم عارفين بالأمس بدينا مباريات كانت نتائجها كلها غير متوقعة. أوليفيرا بطل العالم خسر كل المباريات حقاته معنا في المسرح، ولا عاد ندري إذا هو بيقدر يكمل معنا البطولة ولا لا. كلاسيك أيضا الشخص اللي كنا متوقعين إنه يؤدي أداء كويس في كل المباريات، لكن بنفس الوقت فاجأنا أنه فازها كلها 2-0 2-1. مو طبيعي اللي قاعد يصير. أي شيء ممكن يحدث اليوم، لكن حطوا بالكم جروب ستيج ممكن يخلص قريب.
And you know what? I did all that and I didn't even introduce ourselves this morning.
Oh,
Good
no.
morning, Fancy.
You always forget about that.
I know, I always forget. But it's lovely to be here with you. We've got a lot more StarCraft, a lot more story to go through, and a lot more games to play.
It's gonna be crazy today. أعزائنا المشاهدين، اليوم آخر فرصة إننا نشهد فيها جميع اللاعبين أنهم يتأهلون. Whoever doesn't get 3 wins today, they're not gonna qualify to the next stage, which is a scary thought on its own.
It's a little bit scary, but we've got some scary players in the mix. Did you know that Maru hasn't even dropped a map yet?
He was crazy. He won 2-0 both series yesterday. I mean, that's what you expect from the Marine Prince, right?
It's the power of the pins.
Yeah, exactly. فأعزائنا المشاهدين اليوم راح نشوف وش اللي ممكن يقدمونه كل اللاعبين اللي معنا. غدا إن شاء الله فيكون عندنا يوم مختلف تماماً، راح نتكلم إن شاء الله في نهاية اليوم عنه، لكن قبل كذا لازم نعرف وش بيصير في أول مباراة اليوم، لأن عندنا بتكون واحدة مميزة جدا.
We've got our first players ready. What do you say we start the day of StarCraft here at Gamers8?
Let's do it.
All right. herO of DKZ Gaming. An impressive player, but he's got his work cut out for him in this next match because nobody knows you like a brother, and he's going up against one of his brothers from DKZ, Dark.
راح نشوف ايش اللي ممكن يقدمه اللاعب هيرو، خصوصا انه هو يعتبر من افضل البروتوس بلايرز في العالم زي ما احنا عارفين. هو كان من احد الناس اللي وصل البروتوس ريس عندنا في البطوله، لانه في لاعبون بلا حدود يوم كنا نشهده في البطوله ما كنا ندري اذا بيكون في بروتوس بلاير، وهو اللي قدر ينقذ الريس ويوصل عندنا الجيمرز 8 كاول شخص. لكن خصمه زي ما سمعتوا بيكون احد من الناس اللي قريبين منه مره. خلونا نشوف من هو. من فريق DKZ Gaming دارك. سمعتوني صح اعزائنا المشاهدين، دارك وهيرو التيم ميت ماتش اب راح نشهدها الان كاول مباراه معنا في اليوم الثاني. يعرفون بعض كويس، لعبوا مع بعض فترات جدا طويله، فازوا مع بعض WTL 2022، اثنينهم قدروا يحصلون على الكأس، فهم عارفين بعض كويس، عارفين استراتيجيات بعض، واليوم جاهزين ضد بعض عندنا في جيمرز 8.
I forgot about that. He did pair up with herO to play in the World Team League, and they did beat out Oliveira and Raynor that time to win it. So it could be a contested match here. You know they work well together. Dark, also the winner of DreamHack Valencia last summer, and a very confident late game Zerg. So grab a sandwich, you're gonna need it. We're gonna hang out tight for this match.
تكون من احسن المباريات اللي عندنا اعزائنا المشاهدين، لانه دائما اذا شفنا تيميت يلعبون ضد بعض كل استراتيجياتهم تتغير، لانه كل واحد منهم يعرف استراتيجيات الثاني، يعرف ايش اللي ممكن يقدمه، عشان كذا المباراه هذه بتكون مره مميزه.
Gentlemen, if you'll join us main stage for a handshake.
الابتسامة موجودة عليهم كلهم لأنهم كلهم عارفين وش كل واحد ممكن يسوي في هذه المباراة، لكن جاء الوقت نروح فيه المعلقين نتكلم عن المباراة الأولى، فعلى طول مع الاستديو.
Let's send it out to the casters and get our first match of the day started.
What is up, everybody? We are getting into the very first best of 3 and day 2 here at Gamers8 for StarCraft 2. I'm Tasteless, and joined with me is my old buddy Artosis. How you doing, man?
Yo, Tasteless. I'm doing very well. I feel very well rested after a long day of great games yesterday. And I think that today is going to be amazing as well. Honestly, overall, the game quality at Gamers8 is one of the highest that we've had. Obviously, that is a partial luck thing, but maybe that's in the air for today. I think this is a great match to start off with, herO versus Dark.
It is certainly a match that we have seen before. I mean, these two guys obviously both residing in Korea, playing against each other so many times before in GSL. Dark overall has been a little bit more successful, a little bit more consistent in years past, but herO, he had this incredible breakout performance, really figuring the matchup PvZ out about a year and a half ago, and then kind of fell off. But in this Gamers8, he's already shown some incredible games against players like the likes of herO, so I think he certainly could be a real threat going up against Dark.
For sure, for sure. herO honestly should have beaten herO 2-0. Like, he had him really on the ropes in game number 2, and maybe made a weird choice with the Mass Immortal play. But, you know, going up against Dark, Dark is a very different player from herO, kind of a similar level overall, but a very different style. So we're going to have to see how herO is going to match up specifically against that.
And let's remember that Dark is more than familiar with herO's playstyle. When the style was debuted, it was in the very tournaments that Dark was competing in as well, so he may have a better handle on this. You and I have talked about this before, Artosis, and I guess maybe more off-camera than on-camera. But it does seem like herO, you know, if left alone, could come out with some very creative playstyles that nobody can beat, but once it's been in the ecosystem for a while, everybody does seem to be able to adapt to it. So I'm very curious exactly how this is going to go here with herO versus Dark, because herO may have a harder time against Dark, even though I think Cyril is generally regarded as a better Zerg, tougher Zerg opponent to go against.
Yeah, basically it goes like this. Historically for herO, he's oftentimes the best Protoss in the world, and this has happened like several times during his career. He's oftentimes the best Protoss in the world when the meta is unstable. He comes up with new stuff, new approaches, but eventually his stuff starts to get grinded down a bit and the optimizers come up, right? Like we get players that really get into that stable metagame a little bit better and do better than him. So that's where I feel like more recently, like last year, the year before, he really was coming up with that new stuff, that gateway-centric play, Double Forge, Mass Blink Stalkers, right? Now, it's still kind of working. It's not like he's bad by any means, but is he going to have that deep run that we've kind of been expecting this year that he has not delivered upon?
It's been a pretty lackluster year here for herO, no doubt. But, you know, if there was ever an opportunity to do a full reversal on that, it would be to come out and win this Gamers8. But the player that stands in his path is Dark. And it's undeniable that Dark is maybe the 5 to 6 most consistent players of all time here in StarCraft 2. Like a real threat to take the whole thing. Introducing our first player in the bottom right, in the blue, our Protoss. He is herO. And his opponent here in the upper left, in the red, our Zerg player. It is Dark.
Definitely interested to see what type of style both of these players are going to end up bringing here, right? Like Dark, generally speaking, he is a Roach Ravager type of guy.
Right.
herO obviously really does like his gateway-centric style. Now, whether he goes into robos from that or stays on gateways from that, that's where it kind of starts to become interesting as to the way he wants to play. And will Dark, you know, kind of bend around the unit set that he likes to properly counter what he's playing against?
So, you know, herO, he's always had, I would say, a pretty big range, not just of like, you know, kind of crazy cheesy openings, but also meta plays. But I do feel like here it's more obvious that he's probably going to go for that kind of gateway-centric style. The very early fourth base, usually walled with gateways. We've got a pause called over here for Dark, and so we'll see what exactly the issue is, and once that's resolved, we'll be right back into the action here for game one.
Yeah, most of the times when you see a pause like this, it'll be a sound-based issue. We'll see about that momentarily. Of course, the referee's going over to help Dark out with whatever the problem might be. But yeah, not a big deal, a pause at this point in the game. You know, sometimes you have like a pause during a battle and you're like, well, this is wrong.
This is a big deal. Most pauses do happen in the first, I'd say, minute or two where you realize, okay, something's off. Maybe my mouse doesn't feel right, or you know, there's some issue.
Incorrect hotkeys occasionally.
Yeah, they find out that the binding setup they had wasn't actually loaded in, but whatever that is, it looks like it's already resolved because Dark is confirming that it's okay. Another one that happens a lot of times is the player starts the game out and realizes a light is maybe a little bit too blinding in the studio.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Definitely can happen.
Yeah, we're already past it and we're back into this game. But to what I was saying as the pause happened is that it's generally, I think it's pretty safe to say that herO probably going to try to lean into the style that brought him the success we saw before. And it does seem like he's got kind of a leveled up version, so to speak, of the Oracle opening into Mass Stalker, into Pressure, into maybe Disruptors. There's a lot of different ways you can branch out in the late game, but I'm very curious to see how it does do against Dark.
Yeah, it's good to mention about this, right? We talk about herO style a lot, but maybe some people out there watching don't know exactly what we mean by that. And it's basically you open up with the Oracle Adept, right? Maybe a little bit of pressure, definitely some scouting, and good defense at your third base, and then you go into Blink and +1 right away with a lot of Stalkers. And that's the basis of herO's style, but he kind of has brought it to these other levels where you go mass expansion, mass gateway units. But like you said, we've had a lot of different branches come off of that. Yesterday we saw him actually lose to herO because he made like 15 Immortals, and the Massling Bane was able to break it. But sometimes we see Disruptors, sometimes we see Colossus, sometimes we just see pure gateway units.
Yeah, and that's, I think, an important thing to point out is, like, the mid-game is very, very clear. It's very laid out, right? And I think even if you don't play almost any StarCraft, it's pretty obvious what the Protoss player is trying to do. He's trying to take advantage of the fact that the Stalkers can blink away, so they can deal damage, and then once the fight gets unfair for them, they run away. Yeah. And this damage begins to accumulate. It builds up over time. And a lot of times we see the Zerg player kind of fall apart as we enter into late game. But one idea that's been explored already here, is we're only just getting into game 2, but we did see it yesterday, or sorry, day 2, is that there are a lot of different ways you tech into mid-game, or sorry, late game, like Immortals. Do you mass that up? Do you go for Disruptors? Now, I was talking all about this, but we got a Void Ray being made over here at Tosis.
Yeah. This could be the same build that we actually saw yesterday, where it's like a Void Ray into a couple of carriers after your third base, right, to go and snipe queens and things like that. A very interesting, brand new strategy, barely explored by the pros at this point.
Yeah, so we saw early Void Ray. They're off and on here. It is not a unit that you can really attack the Zerg with. It's really basically meant to fend off any kind of attacks. You can see it's not ideal against Zerglings, right? Like, if there's a lot of Zerglings, it's going to take the Void Ray. I have Elmer Fudd voice here. Void Ray. It's going to take the Void Ray a while to really kill it all off. But a Zerg would have to hyper commit to killing this third Nexus, and so this allows you to pretty safely and calmly set up for that third base, but it does open up opportunities for the Zerg. The Zerg doesn't have to worry about anything when you see the Void Ray come out. They're not going to be attacked.
It's a very good point. It doesn't really go into any sort of timing attack, but look at this behind. It's not going to be that carrier build that we were talking about. It is just going to be straight up a defensive Void Ray, and immediately into +1 Twilight and Robo.
Look at this. A fake Warp Prism. This is cool. So this looks like a 3 to 4 adept rush with the Warp Prisms coming out, a very early timing attack. This may, well, I would say it would force Zerg to overreact, but 7 drones are still about to hatch. We'll see if he can actually sell this right now. More Lings are being made, so we could see that He is respecting the Warp Prism. He should not try to fly in. He should let this fizzle out over here.
Yeah.
But he's really faked this out. 4 Roaches, 6 Zerglings coming up. And I got to say, I'm kind of getting chills here.
Yeah.
We've never quite casted this game.
Yes.
herO is always the guy that has the new ideas. I mean, it's sad SOS isn't here, but we can all be thankful that herO is still around to kind of come up with some new plays.
No, that was brilliant. It really made it look like it would be a depth pressure. Now, instead of additional drones, we have some Roaches and Lings out that really Dark absolutely does not need. Where back at home, herO, he's barely made any units. He's just teching up like crazy right now. He's getting, you know, Blink, +1, Observers here, going into Disruptor tech or possibly Colossi. It's awesome to see. That was a very big brain move there.
Yeah, and now we have the real War Prism being made.
Yeah.
And so now the real attack's going to come in. So one idea is whenever you could force the Zerg to stop making drones and make attacking units, and you fake them out, their economy slows down. Because in a perfect world for Zerg, you wouldn't make a single attacking unit, you just only make drones till you were done, and then you just power out your whole army. And so we'll see how effective this is actually going to be, but I got to say, idea-wise, I'm totally in love with what herO's doing.
Well, right now, +2 getting started as that +1 has finished, and it is going to be Colossus coming out right now. A Spire is coming up for Dark, so there could be some very interesting plays with that Spire. Is there some chance that we see him go into Mutalisks here?
You know, it certainly could be. By the way, this is a Void. You got to see why this is not the great attacking unit, right? The Queen's basically totally dunk on that. To what you were saying, Artosis, I mean, mass Mutaplay, it looks like it's tempting, and we see almost 900 Vespian gas banked up here. And there it is, 9 Mutalisks are going to be on the way. Honestly,
Against a Stalker Colossus opening, this can be very, very strong.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you can get like a critical mass of the Stalkers, but you can't ever force the fight against Zerg. Sometimes these turn into like base trade scenarios if you end up making a lot of Mutalisks. And he does start some more even, and +1 air attacks. So this is going to be a really cool game.
Yeah. Dark may just be able to have totally and completely the upper hand. Now, the Mutas, when you spot that, you know from herO's perspective, I can't attack just yet. And then he needs to get an answer of his own. He is getting Phoenixes, but I think the Phoenix count is literally at like 1 or maybe 2. Yeah, 1. So he doesn't have enough just yet. And I'm not clear on how many cannons are there to defend, or if there even are any cannons actually over here.
Yeah, he has like a shield battery, but we'll see if he gets a few more, and I think you're right, cannons would be smart moves. With the double Stargate, he is going to be able to get a lot of Phoenixes, but just because your opponent is going Phoenixes doesn't mean that you can't still make some Mutas. And in fact, he makes 8 more. So we have Dark actually fully committing here. When he sees that it's 2 Stargate Phoenix, we should actually see him make some Corruptors to zone those out and allow his Mutalisks to continue to attack and harass.
Yeah. And the Mutas haven't really come in and done any damage just yet, but I think they are going to be hitting the bottom. Either that or veering into the main. Not a lot of probes to kill here, so he may just skip this entirely.
And we even have the Fleet Beacon coming up, so Phoenix range is going to be on the cards. Like, for sure, we're going to see Corruptors come out as soon as Dark realizes what's happening. Corruptors are going to be the only unit that can really zone those Phoenixes out of it. See, he sees those Phoenixes, has to turn around. Blink Stalker's going forward. So the Mutas so far, really, really ineffective. But he might be able to make something happen with them still.
Yeah, you know, we do see this general escalation where one player goes Mutas, either goes the Phoenixes, and then you have the Corruptors that come into play.
Yep. And there they are.
And you see them, trying to kind of strong-arm each other, and we find out who comes out on top. You know, herO, I think he's played a pretty good game, but I think Dark is pretty comfortable right now. He's taken almost all the bases on his side of the map. That being said, he hasn't done the damage he wants, but this is a general build up over time where, you know, looks like Dark's basically done making units and herO's almost there as well. We may see, as Dark expands more, start to try to dive on the 4th base here, try to trade this out. If you could win the fight, even if it's only Corruptors left over, you can kill the Nexus.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. And we do see that sometimes here. Now, the main thing is going to be keeping the Corruptors in between the Phoenixes and the Mutalisks. And then the Phoenixes can't really target the Mutalisks because then the Corruptors are getting free shots the entire time, right? So there's this funny balance that we're going to see. And I mean, the thing is, both sides have these units that aren't good at attacking, Phoenixes and Corruptors. So games like this turn really weird really quickly. I'm excited to see how Dark tries to pull this off.
Yeah, well, Dark is going to have to make the first move here. He's banked up the minerals and the gas here. He needs to figure out a way to trade this out. And you can see herO's trying to finesse his way through this and buy a little bit of time, right? As long as the Phoenixes aren't taken out, he can keep expanding and trying to grow. But we're running out of expansions for Dark to take. Dark is growing into herO's side of the map. We've got Zealots coming across. He's probably using these to try to get some damage, but also to free up some supply as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. Like, these compositions are getting so specific on what they're trying to counter. There's a lot of Phoenixes out. They have their range upgrade, which is huge, as we've seen, which means you do have to make more Corruptors here from Dark's side. Like, they do have, like, a base 2 armor, so they do a good job tanking. He moves forward right now. Look at this. The Lings coming up, the Roaches coming up. He's got to be careful about losing too many Mutalisks, though.
Yeah, he does come forward here. I got to say, herO handles this pretty well. He is going to lose those Colossi. This is going to make the ground army a little bit weaker as far as dealing with this.
And you can see the Corruptors do a great job against these Phoenixes. And in fact, standing and fighting there against the Stalkers will eventually pull back. But I think that Dark did a reasonable job there with that engagement. One thing I want to mention is I feel like the one thing Dark is missing here is the Baneling Nest. You definitely want to get Baneling speed. There can be situations where your opponent ends up making a ton of Blink Stalkers, and you're going to want to have Banelings against that.
Okay, he's going to try to come forward here. By the way, cannons. Mass cannoning so popular right now in this style of play, you know, and I think it's a great move because it'll really buys time before this Nexus can be overwhelmed. There are so many Corruptors here. We do have a Mothership coming out with the rest of this, and you know, when you get close to being maxed out, or I guess in herO's case, not even being maxed out, just having the cannons there makes it a lot harder for the Zerg to actually break the position or force a kill on something critical like the Nexus. So I think herO's hanging on. I guess my bigger concern right now is that Dark has so much more of the map.
Yeah, Dark has a lot, so he can actually trade somewhat inefficiently. And you can see here just how strong Mutalisk Corruptor can be. There's no more Phoenixes on the map. He didn't want to continue to commit to a unit that's not useful otherwise, so it has turned into Mass Blink Stalker at this point.
Yeah, it looked like for a second he might be able to get the Nexus, but the Stalkers blink in there, and Dark decides it's better to pull out and buy a little bit of time. Big transfuses coming down here. Is we're just seeing like more Mutas come out, more Corruptors be made here as well. You know, there aren't well, I guess there's one Archon, excuse me, with this group, but you know, we're at the point where there are literally more Mutas in the game than there are Stalkers, or almost the case, I guess, depending on how the next few trade-outs go.
And don't forget, you can stack all your Mutas onto like one square, basically, so it becomes kind of funny where you can have a ton of Stalkers, but they might not even all shoot at the Mutas at once. So the Mutas actually can kind of fight in this situation.
And Dark is now making the massive amount of Lings to come in here. Again, not a lot of cannons at this phase. This is sort of the one weak point that herO needs to make sure that he can keep alive here. If Dark can take out this base that's already pretty low on HP and low on shields, it could be huge. But you can see he's going to seesaw back in between these two positions. Luckily, there are some cannons here and some batteries, although they are depleted. He does dive on the Archon, so immediately takes that out.
Dude, Dark is just playing masterfully here, and it's not that herO is playing poorly. Like, he's doing some counterattacks, he is getting a very strong army at the moment, but I haven't seen how he's actually planning on dealing with this giant Mutalisk ball.
Yeah, it's really impressive. He does try to sandwich this over here. It's not going to do that much. herO is still setting Zealots out little bit by little bit. You know what? He's actually stuck here. How funny is this?
He's actually gonna try to fly out of there. A lot of Zealots actually continuing to attack. I am shocked, like, we're on Hive tech. We don't really see anything being made for Hive yet. I do want to see that Baneling Nest still. You know, that would help out immensely, I think, against some of these, like, Zealot attacks. He might want to start throwing down some Static D as well, but look at this. Psy Storm's going down on the Mutas. He just goes right through it, attacks the Archons. when you have this many mutas, the damage output is immense.
I don't think that Dark was respecting the threat of the counterattack, but when the Stalkers come across the map, it might be herO who's not respecting the counterattack that Dark could do as well. But Dark is not going to go for one at all. In fact, he's going to try to come right in here and fight this head on. And I'm starting to think that herO may be able to get the upper hand with how many Stalkers he has and the fact that he can blink away. This is huge.
Yeah, the Muta's trying to fight right now, and we're at 26 against 25, so very even as far as the numbers. Of course, Stalkers with that blink are going to have a little bit of an edge. He also has +3 attack and +1 plasma against 2-1 Mutas. So really great upgrades on both sides, but Stalker's just a bit cheaper. And he continues to send them up.
This is a huge catch down here with the Corruptors, just killing this Nexus off. And Dark actually wins on both fronts. This may be the, yep, that's going to be it. I was about to say, this may be the moment that Dark actually confirms the win, killing both the Nexus as well as defending the Stalkers. Big win there, but I'll tell you what, that was a very fascinating back and forth.
Yes, it really was. The fact that he started with the Phoenixes, I don't mind it, but he kind of gave them up, went into the Stalkers, and never got a critical mass of anything that would make it impossible for the Mutas, right? If you, like, they keep jumping on one Archon at a time, or one Archon and a morphing Archon. Whereas with herO, if you get up, like let's say you have 6 Archons and Stalkers, the Mutas cannot actually come over and fight that, because 6 Archons firing at the same time will kill all of your Mutalisks. So in a situation like that, you can actually do things like force base trades, but herO was a little bit stubborn and thought that he could go just Stalkers there.
I think also sending all the Stalkers across the map at that end moment was what really cost him the game. It seems like when he sent the Zealots and a few Archons here and there and did a lot of damage, it might have been better to keep making a couple Zealots everywhere and sending stuff out and then covering that one vulnerable Nexus with cannons. But, you know, even then it's hard to say. It seems like Dark was able to pretty comfortably get into the kind of game he wanted to play. Now, let's not forget, I mean, it was a very, very different opener. We're watching all these highlights with fights, but my big takeaway from that game was how it started. It was Void Ray, then into a fake Warp Prism, and making it look like it was a very different type of game than it actually was. It did seem to work, I guess, in the sense that Dark did react by making attacking units. I guess you have to when you see that, right? You're kind of forcing that. But at the end of the day, Dark was able to play the kind of game he wanted to play. I do wonder now if we're going to see the style we kept talking about, at least the opening style, you know, early Oracle into Stalkers into early 4th base this time around.
Well, honestly, I think that like herO's plan actually was that, just without the Oracles, right? Instead getting a Void Ray.
Sure.
Which kind of fulfills the same need.
I suppose so. Oh, well, let's get into the intros here. In the upper right, in the red, he is Dark. And in the bottom left here in the blue, our Protoss player, he is herO. So to continue that point we were talking about, I feel like the Oracles allow you to create a little bit more pressure with the Stalkers because they can kill the Lings. You can actually move out a little bit sooner and create more opportunities where the Void Ray really doesn't. The Void Ray basically just made sure that Dark did not mass Ling and kill the third.
Yeah, so with a single Void Ray, like, you get the Overlord immediately, and you can take the third a little bit quicker, I think, with it. That's what we kind of saw there out of herO. And like with Oracles, you always end up making like 3-ish, and then you're like across the map harassing with them and everything. I feel like with the one Void Ray there, like I don't think it's necessarily better. I think the Oracle is probably overall a little bit better. But it felt like he was very highly optimized into getting into that blink and +1 extremely quickly, and maybe putting on pressure in that way instead of the Oracles early.
Well, let's see what herO's going to do right now. You know, one thing to note is that Dark was one of the Zergs that basically sorted herO out with this play style, with this approach, and was able to kind of reassert his dominance in the Korea scene. You know, we saw how well herO did against Cyril, but, you know, that is a top player from another region. We don't really have Europeans that play like herO does. You know, he's kind of a one of a kind. I guess we saw Creator dabble with it a little bit, but other than that, and I guess it's not even a European player, as I say it. But yeah, Dark seems to have a much more comfortable handle on this. And so, yeah, it's a tough situation here for herO.
So looking into this game, right, we do have the hatchery block. Obviously, that's going to open up. Like, if you're specifically going for this hatchery block, I think it's less likely you see the Void Ray opener, right? Like, you should be going into the Oracle Adept because the bases are split. It's a little bit easier to get that harassment done. And there is that Stargate from herO once again.
Yeah, and again, the question we have coming from the Stargate is it going to be a Void Ray or is it going to be an Oracle? And if so, how many? Now, Dark, look, occasionally he does like to do some kind of crazy all-in. I don't think he's going to do anything like that in this game. I think he's going to play a very, very passive game and get into very late-game tech. His whole goal is just to try to expand and drone up.
Yeah. Well, if you get to that large drone count, right, that's where Dark really excels, which is funny because he's also actually, in my opinion, the best low drone macro player in the world. Like, he can sit on 44 and get into Hive and actually do that. But yeah, I feel like Dark has become somewhat synonymous with getting somewhere near 100 drones and just making banelings.
Yeah, he's very good at having some scrappy plays here. The Oracle is going to come out. Now, this doesn't mean we have to have that Stalker style, but I am feeling like it's probably going to be one of those games, right? herO, in a moment like this where it's so critical that he comes out victorious, why not lean into what worked for you before?
Certainly very important, right? Like, if you get those 3 wins, you are going to the round of 8, and that is a dramatic increase in the prizes that you're going to end up winning. Now, he flies right over 2 queens and does pick up a couple kills, but of course can't really do much more than that with the amount of damage that you've taken.
I mean, it does go without saying, but Protoss can never recover the hit points lost on any hull. So to see him kind of just move through the queens like that to get the 2 kills, I mean, 2 kills is never bad, right? But it's a little bit harder when you get the second Oracle out now to dive in. One is already going to be able to tank considerably less.
The Oracle's going to be going in for another little sweep here. Nothing at the natural in the moment as they fly over. Some drones starting to get sent down. Single queen there. There is a Spore, so he's still going to be able to get a few. The Spore, not very microable here.
Yeah, he gets a few more. So we had 2 earlier, now 4, so that's 6 total. I mean, if he can get up to 8, that's going to be huge, right? We've got Adepts that are roaming around the map. 8 roaches are being made here, and a lot of lings are coming as well. And I want to see, are there going to be any queens? Yeah, there are. I was about to say, are there going to be any queens moving across the map? And so, whether this was premeditated, excuse me, or prompted by the early kills on the drones, it's now going to be up to herO to try to survive this attack the same way he did versus Cyril just yesterday.
He might need to recall those 2 Oracles at the back. Like, he actually needs those Oracles in here, I think. Does a tag there on the queens. That's
a questionable move.
That's a question. I agree. Like, I guess it's going to show you for a few seconds, like if he's coming straight in, but they're queens. They're slow. You kind of know exactly when they're going to get there.
At this point in time, you have to treat it for what it is. That almost seems like a weird reflexive move by him.
Yeah. I feel like stasis wards and just turning the Oracle on are the right plays here.
I think literally anything but tagging that was the right move.
Chrono boosting probes here is also wrong.
Yeah.
So... Anyways, we're going to see if he can hold on. That is a scary army gets right on top of him here.
Oh my god, and these biles are going to connect, and I think actually that could be maybe even a fatal amount of damage here.
This is pretty scary. That 3rd base doesn't look like a base that's going to end up living. He sends the Oracles back through the Spores. I don't know what's going on here. This is like, herO is absolutely blundering this game right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, now he's lost the cybernetic Spore, so he can't make more Stalkers or Adepts or anything that's going to be handy right now. We have so much more damage just being output over here. And, oh my gosh, he's supply blocked now. The Stalkers are surrounded, or were. The batteries are powered off.
He is super dead right now. Like this, honestly, herO is a great player, but he screwed this game up completely.
Yeah.
Didn't bring the Oracles back. You know, his pylons weren't properly spread there, loses 2 of them, and the overcharge goes away, gets surrounded by lings at the 3rd. You know, every single moment of this, defending this attack has been poorly done by herO, to be honest.
There's just not a lot he can do. Interesting to see that, you know, when Dark does the timing, he goes for the 3rd, where Cyril goes for the natural. But I think he wants to take the free kill here on the base. There are Stalkers and Zealots coming up here for a fight. We have some drones being made, which could indicate the beginning to the end of the rush, but it's possible that outright StarCraft is just dead, that there's no way he can recover. I mean, this is so much damage. And the probes now are going to be falling here, which means it gets even worse.
Yeah, like maybe he ends up living through this, but honestly, like if he had instantly brought the Oracles back and really focused on microing his units, I feel like this actually would have been a relatively easy hold.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, I don't know, the tagging, it was he did not seem to respect the fact that the rush could be coming.
When you see cleans on your side of the map, guess what? There's an attack, that's it.
There's going to be an attack, and if he's not attacking, then he is wasting his time because his queens are going to take forever to get back home.
Is herO actually going to be okay? Because, like, look, I mean, these players are fantastic. I love casting herO, but like that'll probably be the worst defense we see in the tournament of a move like this. And like the fact that he is still alive here, you know, it's honestly, I'm a little bit surprised because I don't think he could have defended it more poorly than he did.
We had units that were surrounded immediately upon the rush coming in. Like
when he right-clicked his
they were hit with
oracles,
corrosive bile.
Yeah, I think he F2'd his oracles that were at the back of the main. He lost one going over spores, a high energy oracle.
Yeah.
Like the 3 oracles are so crucial to that defense.
And we do see that the follow-up here from herO is certainly not one I was expecting, but he's getting a second and a third Stargate. So he's basically going to camp and tech into, in this case, it looks like carriers here, and kind of run the clock. Now this does allow Dark to basically run amok on the map, droning up, taking bases, and gobbling up every opportunity that the map is going to give him. But I think, well, let's see if it gets scouted here. This Overseer is kind of moved. The Stargates are in the blind spot of the Overseer, but if he spots this, that's all you need to know. So this is going to be a big moment here. Can he actually come around from the bottom?
Did he fly over the new cybernetics core? I'm not so sure because that was upgrading. Yeah.
I don't know if he saw that or not.
But anyways, I mean, he's right now. Dark is going into some Hydras. He's getting Lurker Tech. He's getting the Infestation Pit. So certainly some tools that might be able to help out. But when I do see that Lurker Den, I do think he's not entirely sure of what's going on.
Yeah, it's well, I guess we got to see, does he attack with the Hydras or not? I think there is a way that you play this out and hit with the Hydras. You get the Lurker Den regardless. And then you just try to come in and basically kill that third again. We've got a squad of Oracles roaming around the map. They haven't gotten any kills yet. I guess they are going to tag Queens and drones here. I guess it's not the most handy thing to spot. But it should be an interesting late game here. I mean, if herO can get enough carriers, it'll be fun to see how exactly Dark deals with this. But generally speaking, you know, carriers, they're not as slow as Broodlords, but you kind of treat them the same way. A lot of times you can run around them and basically force the Protoss to try to defend everything on the map instead of really coming across the map and doing a lot of damage, especially once you bait out the first recall.
Yeah, no. Robo on the way here, more and more carriers being made, and honestly, look at this army, like as you're adding in the Lurkers, this feels like you're preparing for like more of a Blink Stalker-esque play. A Ling being sent out and seeing, of course, mass stasis wards. You would expect this when 4 oracles are flying around and not overutilizing their energy for harassment purposes. So I'm sure he's going to be on the lookout for that as well. Hive almost done here.
Yeah. More and more drones are coming out. I mean, Dark is about to surpass 73 workers here. You know, it was a very explosive start. The all-in did not kill herO, and I think I kind of like as the game goes on the way that herO's approaching this is to basically not try to. I mean, obviously you get this far behind, you can't make a bunch of stalkers and try to harass. Dark's always going to have more, so why not just kind of tech leap that into this you know, super late game stuff. Some changelings are going to come in here. I mean, I think that's the only building you had to see to know what's going on.
I don't think you look at that and think, oh, Void Ray speed, uh-oh. Phoenix range again.
Of course. And so we have Charge coming. Never too late to get that, along with the Templar Archives. You know, Dark hasn't, like, mass expanded, but he's getting up there. He's got 2 more hatcheries about to finish. You can see he's moving out on the map. I think some of this is just to try to bait out these stasis wards that have been littered around the map.
You know what's wild to me here, Tasteless? Because Dark's attack probably couldn't have been more successful.
Yeah.
But now the game we're looking at is either herO wins right now or the game goes to mind out map.
Yeah,
that's like the two things that can occur at this point.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like there are, okay, these are spores that are going to be brought over here. How many does he actually have? I don't think there's enough queens in the background either.
His anti-air here is like not that strong. He does have, okay, well, a couple of Vipers coming in. That definitely can turn the tides a little bit. Yeah, great yoinks coming in. Going to be able to pick off 2, 3 carriers here maybe. 4 carriers maybe. Oh, man. This is, like, what a weird game we're seeing here. He's getting so many kills on these early carriers.
I mean, he got like 4 carrier kills.
Yeah.
Let's remember, there's 3 Stargates. So, I mean, you kill more than 3 carriers, and it's like, well, that's more than even like a whole round of carriers coming out of the Stargate. There are 3 more that are going to pop out, but if you have a couple more engagements like that, I mean, Dark kind of made that look easy.
Yeah, I think it's very likely from this point after killing those carriers, because it's funny, he's hitting with the carriers so quickly that he has a chance to win. But then it's like, oh, there's Vipers, and we don't have High Templars yet for the Protoss side. Like, these were not fully developed armies on either side. And now that Dark has held that, this really does look to me, Tasis, we're 13 minutes and 30 seconds in. Like, this is the type of game that goes to 32 minutes and they fight over the last space, you know?
I think so.
I think it's likely, but we'll see. Dark is trying to get some damage. He's very Hydra heavy, which is not necessarily the composition that you want here.
Well, he's going to try to push with the Lurkers, and this could totally obliterate the ground army if he tries to commit the... Oh my god, the Oracle's on like an A move over there. He loses those.
Oh, man.
He's going to lose the Hydras. He might lose the game, Artosis.
It is a possibility. A big storm goes off, though. Another big storm as well. Some of the carriers get picked off, but he's going to push him back once again. And now the switch into Corruptors, right? Both sides are like trying to bludgeon each other, then losing their armies and getting closer to the actual compositions we normally see in endgame PvC.
Right. Exactly. But I think the Corruptors, unless, you know, there's enough to actually fight them directly, he's going to kill all the carriers. And then you're going to see air dominance from the Zerg, and probably a very easy late game. I mean, you know how much easier it is to make, 15 Corruptors than it is to remake an entire carrier fleet of 8 to 9 carriers.
For sure.
You can, at the snap of a finger, Zerg can crank out more than that.
Maybe it's time to take a page out of, Classics book here, and instead of 6 robos, just make like 15 Stargates. Make sure all your carriers can come back at once.
That's right. You need to also be able to snap your fingers and have every single unit back in the game. Now,
Zerg style.
Dark is growing, but I gotta say, I do feel like herO's expansions are pretty scary right now for the Zerg. I mean, herO's got more than enough to basically fund himself for the longer period of the game, and all the new bases that Dark is going to take for the rest of this game are going to be in uncomfortable spots on the map. They're going to be in the far reaches of the corner, of either corner, I should say, that you can grow into, which, easily herO can come across the map and poke that out. The others are just close in the middle. In fact, even closer travel distance there if herO wants to try to take that out. And we do see a lot of Zergs, basically, if they can't close it out, in the late game, when we start to run out of bases, that's when Terrans especially, but it seems like more and more Protosses as well, figure out a way to come in and just deny that last base over and over.
Yeah.
With Zerg always having to expand ahead of the Terran, ahead of the Protoss, they always need to be at least one base up. There are these end game scenarios where you can basically be a Protoss in this case, and just let the Zerg mine out and then stop them from taking that base that's pretty much shared between the two starting locations on the map.
Yeah, generally speaking, you would consider Protoss to be more cost efficient, so if it does end up on those equal bases, that's going to be just enough to push through to that victory. Dark, though, can be pretty good cost efficiency-wise in these situations sometimes, right? Like, definitely different Zergs have different styles here in how they want to end up playing it. Now, the second Spire is coming up. Pathogen Glands. He's making a second Infestation Pit, which that one I'm not so sure about, but maybe he wants to get herO right away, I guess. Maybe it's worth it to him to pop that second one. But yeah, 3 Tempests being added in as well as a Mothership, so they're really going for their ultimate compositions right now.
Yeah, a little bit of a quiet here before the storm. It does seem like we're going to have herO try to roam forward here. I like the disruptors underneath this. This is going to make, you know, using any Hydras here not as handy, but look at the number of Corruptors.
It's a lot. He does have Psy Storms to go with this, but no Archons. A lot of times having a few Archons underneath this army is really, really helpful against the Corruptors, because Psy Storm alone doesn't really do it. You can kind of dodge that a little bit, but you can't dodge it. Like, you can't do move forward on top of the carriers if there's a few Archons under there. So it feels like that, okay, he is starting to make some Archons, so we see that getting fixed up. And of course, with melee attack and Carapace coming up, as well as the Ultralisk Cavern that we see here, this is kind of Dark's counter that he came up with to try to clear those High Templars so that the Corruptors don't get eaten alive.
Okay, we see these Queens chase down. You know, herO's been looking for some kind of a soft spot to hit, and it looks like he may have found it over here on the far right, but he's going to pull away. I stand corrected. And he wants to try to get the storms off onto these Corruptors. Not a bad storm, not great either. Again, you know, Dark is doing a pretty good job of running the clock in his own way. We can see that the upper left side of the map is, you know, being gobbled up by Dark as well, as these carriers are mostly in the lower right center here.
One thing I want to mention that I'm seeing here from herO right now is he has a mothership, but it's not with his army. This is something I was talking about yesterday. I think this is actually like a crucial part to late game PvZ, is if you go mothership, leave it at home for recalls, right? Like, it just gets yoinked so quickly, and it's so slow moving that it's hard to keep it alive in these attacks. Now, in come the Corruptors. You can see they're dodging the storms by getting on top of carriers, and you're storming your own carriers here. Now, he actually brings in the mothership, but there's plenty of detection here, and it does seem as if Dark is definitely taking an advantage here.
And remember, even though these supplies look fairly even, it's way easier for Zerg to just remake it all. And you can see it now. 3 more carriers coming. We have 15 more Corruptors coming out. The rest of what Protoss warps in is going to be Stalkers and a mothership, which is, you know, miles away as far as relevance in this game.
Yeah, maybe the Stalkers, once they have Blink, can do some harassment, but he doesn't even have Blink yet. So, you know, you walk in here and you're kind of hoping there's no infestors that you haven't seen yet. A fungal going down on these is going to be very painful. But he's trying to keep some pressure on, trying to keep Dark off of his back now while he tries to remake that extremely expensive army that he just lost. I tell you, I have not seen a top-level PvZ with as many army donations from both sides as this one.
You know, herO is about to take this, the bottom 2 right bases. You can see he takes the gold even before he takes the free one that's going to be behind that if you can secure the gold. And I think that if herO has these bases in the bottom right, I think he wins this game.
Yeah, you could be right about that. So far, we did see the cost efficiency there is actually equal for both sides in resources lost. But yeah, a lot of that is because of that army that herO just attacked with kind of haphazardly and lost so quickly.
Well, the push now is coming from Dark. I mean, this is really a moment where the ball's in Dark's court, right? He has to try to come forward here and break this. And you can see the Protoss is so much more comfortable with the comfort of cannons and batteries over here. This is just a lot easier to deal with. The question is, can Dark break this position? Because that's all Dark needs to do right now, is make the bottom right part of the map not accessible. He does harpoon in a few more carriers. They both end up falling. And the Broodlords, you know, they can go to work on the ground as the air-to-air combat continues on. The Lurkers, of course, make the Protoss ground army an impossible, you know, maneuver to get in there.
Yeah, doing a good job of kind of forcing everything back. Dark definitely doing a bit better at the moment. Runs up here with a ton of Lurkers, just going to try to bomb through these cannons extremely, extremely quickly. The Broodlord's helping out as well. A lot of ground damage here in Dark's army, more than you would normally see against a carrier-based composition. But herO's lost so many of his high-quality units.
And now he's actually getting, you know, this is almost like a bonus kill. If you could take this out, this is even better than what we were talking about, the initial objective being here. It looks like he cloaks it temporarily, but ultimately, herO's army, you could see that there's just more tools at the Zerg's disposal with the kind of composition that he has. He's even able to dive bomb in here again with these Corruptors and get some of these kills. It looks like another, oh no. Okay, one more carrier, excuse me, does fall.
Kind of surprised we're not seeing a time warp come out, but okay. I'm not sure what that's doing for you since there's so much detection. But Yeah, he loses that extra base. It definitely seems like Dark is starting to pull away with this game.
I thought for a little bit that this was going to be like a herO win. When I saw him take that gold base, I thought there's no way that he can get in there. But, you know, it's funny. It wasn't even really the air-to-air combat. It was the Broodlords just doing so much damage before you could even try to have the Protoss over time win that fight, right? The Broodlords take out the Nexus, and then the next Nexus. Yeah. And eventually, you know, herO can get done what he needs to do, and he's won the fight, but by then it's too late. The objectives have been hit there for Dark. He's lost. Sorry, Dark has killed herO's Nexuses, and you can see now herO is struggling in supply. Dark is basically already remaxed. He's continuing to grow. And I imagine we're going to see another attack coming here from Dark once more to try to flatten herO's position even more.
Well, he is adding in a few Vipers here, so once he charges those up, that might be the ideal time to go in. You know, his abducts have been very strong so far this game. It feels like herO hasn't fully made the exact composition that you're really looking for, right? Like, not the right balance of Archon, High Templar, you know, Carrier, etc. But yeah, we'll see. He's getting his carrier count back up pretty darn well, and if he adds in the appropriate amount of Archons, and he, you know, if he maybe he wants a few Tempests, maybe not, but definitely a lot of High Templars. Looks like he's adding in Void Rays. That's going to be an anti-corruptor tool here. And we still do, like, it felt like Dark might be able to kill him, but we're kind of trending back towards that longer 30-minute plus game where you're going to have the map basically mined out.
I'll tell you, Artosis, it's not over till it's over, right?
It's not over till it's over.
And you're seeing, you know, herO continue to hang on. And hanging on is really all you have to do. Until you're dead, the Zerg still is at the risk of mining out their side of the map, and sometimes even having these expansions denied and then reclaiming them later on for the Protoss is kind of weirdly gets you in that position where you can actually win. But Dark is still doing damage here and there. I do believe the center left base is going to mine. Okay, so it's got 4 patches, but that will mine out.
Yeah.
That's going to be eventually an irrelevant location, which means the bottom right overall position is going to be where we need to see the Zerg try to focus down. He did it once. He could certainly do it again. We are having slightly different comps here for herO. He is making Void Rays. I don't know how many there are total, but the Void Rays do give you a little bit more time to sustain. So it's only 4, so they were just freshly made. I do think the Dark may be able to overpower this again.
It's possible. The amount of Archons under there is very important as well. The Lurker plus Broodlord, that's going to be what he's trying to utilize to get rid of Archon High Templar, because the Archon High Templar is the true counter to the Corruptors, but adding in Void Rays can do it as well. Right? Highly upgraded Void Rays, when you turn them on against Corruptors, they absolutely can destroy them. So a lot of spellcasting going to be important here, a lot of zoning plays as well. One thing I have to mention, I'm surprised we don't have even one Infestor at the moment, right? Like, it feels like, you know, a Fungal really can mess with this.
Yeah, you're totally right, Artosis. A Fungal could snag this, and then we could even see Dark dive in on top and go for those kills. It looks like the Zealots are going to be chased away. Now, herO's going to come through here like a big wrecking ball and start to decimate this area, kind of eye for an eye, so to speak, here after what happened in the bottom right. But there is a small and very efficient attack going down here in the opposite side of the map here as well. And I do think that Dark is going to have a very limited number of resources if he can't start to stabilize and push back this big fleet of Protoss air units.
For sure, for sure. Now, he is adding in those Infestors from before, but also doing some great moves like running these Lurkers behind the minerals, so denying a lot of mining. Neither player has a big bank. Very oftentimes in games like this, you'll see banks of 5K plus on both sides. Here, it's closer to 2 or 3 from these guys.
He did get the Hive. I didn't follow if any other tech was picked off there, but that's
significant. No more Vipers, right? That's a big deal.
It's like one of the worst things that can happen to Zerg in the late game is to lose the Hive.
It certainly can be, yeah. Especially when you're relying on things like those Vipers. Now, some good fungal growths do go down there. You know, he throws down the Time Warp, trying to zone everything out, backs up a little bit, more Void Rays being created. Dark is still maxed here.
Yeah, the attack comes in. And I'm a little bit worried here. It does seem like Dark is still able to grow into this. He's going to put those Corruptors on top of the carriers again, so the damage is shared with the Psystorms.
But it looks like the carriers are going to come out on top still after all of that. There's like 3 Corruptors left, but he's running out of those interceptors. Suddenly a couple of yoinks going in as the carriers try to back up, and just enough Corruptors coming out at the end. GG is called, and Dark is going to take it 2-0. A very sloppy game number 2.
I kind of like those down and dirty games, though.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't want to have 2 players that play perfectly, and instead it's really about pretty dramatic back and forth here. Dark, it seems to tactically know exactly how to handle that specific unit comp. When we see the Corruptors just go on top of the carriers, when we see that the Broodlords, when Dark is fully ahead, he uses that as kind of a sweeping mechanism to just kill off everything on the ground while the air fight's going on.
Yep.
He really has such a good handle. And I think it's one of the main reasons why, you know, herO's style in general hasn't been able to beat the people that are actually in his own territory in the Korea region.
That's a good point right there. You know, herO, I think that there were some times where he did have an edge in that game, despite the fact that he lost his third early on, but maybe a little bit too messy with his attacks, right? Losing a lot of carriers. You do have to play kind of a grindy game with that composition. You want to really be as efficient as possible and wear the Zerg down. But herO, he's more of an aggressive player, tried to finish Dark a couple times, and unfortunately will take that loss. He hasn't advanced that round of 8 quite yet.
We're going to go to an interview now and see how Dark is feeling. He has just defeated herO 2-0.
Thank you so much. Got to be a bit of a bittersweet victory here, Dark, taking out a teammate, but you did it beautifully. Tell me, what is it like to play against a teammate in a tournament like this?
일단 축하드립니다. 같은 팀 동료랑 상대하는 게 맞서는 게 정말 힘드시겠어요. 이런 감정 어떻게 생각하는지?
평소에도 서로 연습을 굉장히 많이 하기 때문에 팀킬만은 바라지 않았는데 이번 대회 좀 운이 많이 없는 것 같고요. 저도 그렇고 준호 형도 그렇고 좀 서로 너무 잘 알아서 오늘 심리전이 많이 오갔던 것 같은데 머리가 굉장히 좀 아팠습니다.
Well, we always practiced together and played together a lot. So this time it wasn't. I didn't want to kill a mate, but as our luck wasn't with us this time, so I'm really. I wasn't that lucky this time, but we're both doing great.
زي ما تشوفون أعزائنا المشاهدين معانا دارك بعد ما قدر يفوز في المباراة. أول سؤال سألناه بما أنه هو جالس يلعب مع أو ضد التيم ميت حقه هيرو، الفوزة هذه ما راح تكون جدا يعني فرحان فيها، فسألنا السؤال الأول وش شعورك أنك تلعب ضد تيم ميت في بطولات زي كذا؟ كان الجواب يقول أنه أوكي يعني صراحة إحنا ما حلفنا الحظ أننا نتواجه مع بعض بدري في البطولة، خصوصا أنهم بما أنهم إلى الآن في الجروب ستيج، وكان يقول أنه أنا جدا يعني سعيد إني فزت، لكن بنفس الوقت إحنا كلنا يعني جالسين نأدي أداء كويس ودنا أن نكمل نسوي هالمستوى، لكن بنفس الوقت يعني ما كان فوز هو فرحان فيه كثير.
I'm sure it's tough to go against a teammate, and I'm sure there's a lot of respect that comes into that, maybe hesitating a little bit. I want to know, in that second game, did you feel in control the entirety of the time you're playing on Royal Blood?
두 번째 게임에서 컨트롤 잘 하셨는지?
손이 너무 얼어가지고 평소 제 컨디션이 잘 안 나온 것 같고 컨트롤 쪽으로 좀 미스가 많았던 것 같아요. 준호 형도 그만큼 좀 잘 하시기도 하고 여러모로 좀 저는 개인적으로 좀 아쉬웠던 것 같습니다.
On the second game, my hands freezed a lot. I didn't do my best, so I didn't control the game that much. The other player did well, so it was a bit. It didn't go as well as I wanted to do.
سألنا دارك وش صار في ماب رويال بلاد بالذات بعد ما شفنا الفوز حقه كان ممتاز وقدر يفوز الجيم، لكن نفس الوقت كان في فترة من الجيم ممكن انه يخسره، فكان الجواب يقول انه بالجيم في بدايته ما قدرت اني اسوي كنترول على كل شيء قاعد يصير بالشكل الصحيح، بس اني بالاخير قدرت اني ارجع واقدر اني اخذ الجيم لصالحي.
I'm sorry to hear that you didn't feel in control, but you looked very sharp in that match. And with the skills, I want to know, who do you most want to test against in this tournament?
이번 대회 가장 기대되는 선수랑 붙는 게 누구신지?
딱히 뭐 그런 선수는 없고요. 그냥 지금 2승 1패가 됐는데 그냥 같은 2승 1패가 된 선수 중에 그나마 좀 쉬운 선수랑 붙어서 얼른 3승을 채워서 8강을 가고 싶다는 생각밖에 없습니다.
All I think about right now is that I want to go against like an easy player if I could. For now, there's no other player in my mind. That's it.
سألنا دارك مين اللاعب اللي حاب انه يواجهه في المباريات القادمه في البطوله، جوابه كان يقول انه انا ودي صراحه اني اواجه لاعب مستواه يكون قليل شوي عشان يقدر انه يحصل الفوز عليه، وبس ما كان في شيء ثاني ممكن انه يفكر فيه الا انه بس يواجه واحد مستواه شوي متدني.
Dark, an easy player? We don't have any of those here. I'm so sorry. We've only got the best of the best, and we've got more games coming up from them real soon. But let's take a closer look at these games back at the analyst desk.
على طول بنرجع للاستوديو التحليلي اعزائنا المشاهدين نتكلم اكثر عن وش صار في هذه المباراه، كيف دارك قدر يهزم التيم ميت حقه هيرو 2-0. على طول مع الاستوديو.
Teammate turmoil as a terrified herO goes up against Dark and is not successful. Dark is able to take the victory here, going up against him in the CVP. Joining me, ZG as well as Loco to talk about this one. There was question marks around this game for me, I have to say, across both the matches that actually went down, ZG, because herO looked both players at some moments looked a little bit weird. As we take a look at the highlights by STC.
It's kind of them, though. I think that Dark is less affected by the individual that he's playing up against, but then his style of play kind of creates games more often like this. But then herO, I would say, usually is a bit more sharp, a little bit, I don't know, better at like cementing games. Like after this moment, he probably should have been able to recover and actually win. But there's something about Dark, you know, that he clearly thinks a lot about their matches. I think he probably thinks about it more than Dark does. And that starts to show in the play as both of them cause a lot of forced errors and unforced errors just by the dynamic between the two.
Yeah, it does seem to kind of translate that way. Let's take a look at some of these engagements going down. And eventually, yeah, herO was able to recover in some of these scenarios, but it just felt like a slow whittling down from Dark as herO was up against it, Loco.
Yeah, overall, Dark definitely looked very good, but I think in both games there were very clear moments where herO could have actually won. I mean, we just saw that engagement when he was on the other side of the map. I think there were like 6 Hydralisks and like 6 Queens available against like 8 carriers, and somehow the carriers were attacking the Roaches and Ravagers. I mean, there's a couple of moments where, yeah, I also definitely have some question marks about that particular engagement. In the end, though, yeah, we didn't have time warp being used. I mean, this is kind of how they play, though, right? Like, both of them, they play these scrappy matches, these very chaotic games. And usually, whenever Dark manages to pull the games in that chaotic direction, he just seems more comfortable.
Yep, takes the victory here against herO, who, again, you know, as we were behind the scenes here, ZG, it just felt like herO had a little bit of a mental block. But let's take a look at how this is going to work out results-wise. We have other results coming in from the B stream as well. Cure 2-0 against Clem. Clem is now 1-2 here in the Swiss format, ZG.
Yeah, not totally unsurprising, of course. Cure is very good at TVT, the only one who can actually bring it to Maro in that matchup as well. But Clem really has yet to show what I think is a fantastic TVT online, like actually kind of mind-blowing online. I know he's not facing the same caliber of players, and particularly not Korean Terrans, but it is it's unfortunate that he's not able to show that, as Cure apparently did 2-0 him rather convincingly.
Yeah.
So I know Clem probably not feeling super great about that one now on his last life. And after that, so that means that match we just saw, the herO is also on his last life. Yes?
That's true.
So very high stakes now.
Well, someone like Cure has got very good TVT unless he has to deal with against Maro, I suppose. But anyway, that's how it's going to break down. Thank you for joining us here at Gamers8. We're going to go to a short break. When we return, we actually have a non-Korean versus a non-Korean, as herO is going to go up against Showtime in a bout. So stay tuned for more Gamers8.